Sometimes there are people who seem to make it their mission to get under your skin. They provoke you with sarcasm, sharp words, and subtle mockery. Their goal is simple: to drag you down to their level, to disturb your peace, and to feel a false sense of power by doing so. And most people fall into this trap. They shout back, defend themselves, and try to explain. But a Stoic person behaves differently. They know that silence is always the most powerful response. They understand that staying silent is not weakness. It's the highest form of self-control. A Stoic never wastes energy on what doesn't matter. They respond to rudeness with dignity, to aggression with calmness. And as a result, something happens that the rude person hates the most. They are left speechless. So according to Stoic philosophy, how can you leave a rude person speechless? But before we begin, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and give this video a like. Your support truly matters and motivates us to keep creating more meaningful videos. If you're ready, let's begin. At the very core of Stoic thought lies a simple truth. It's not the words that hurt you, but the meaning you attach to them. This single idea reveals the secret of silence in human relationships. Most people take what others say as a personal attack. When someone speaks harshly, our mind immediately goes into defense mode. How dare they say that to me, we think. But that's exactly when the trap is set. Because the moment you react, you're already inside the game. The Stoic, however, sees it differently. They know that rudeness is not really about you. It's a reflection of the chaos inside the other person. It's not your problem. It's their imbalance. Frustration, fear, and anger speaking through them. A rude person isn't yelling at you. They're yelling at their own pain. That's why the Stoic response is simple. Stay calm. Do not take their words personally. Don't replay the hurtful phrases in your mind trying to analyze them. Their words are like the wind brushing against a tree. The tree may tremble, but its roots remain firm. Once I witnessed something remarkable. A manager harshly criticized one of his employees in front of the entire office. His voice was loud, his comments unfair, even a bit humiliating. But the employee stood still, silent, eyes fixed on one point, saying nothing. The whole room fell silent. Everyone expected him to react, to defend himself, to fire back. Some were even waiting for him to explode, to say something that would get him fired. But he said nothing. After a few minutes, the manager's voice began to soften, because standing before him was not someone absorbing his aggression, but someone who had complete control over his emotions. At the end of the day, the manager approached the employee and apologized. He admitted he'd been too emotional, even unfair in his remarks. The employee listened quietly again. In time, everything was resolved, and the manager realized how ugly his own behavior had looked. He apologized once more. That is the power of Stoic silence. You didn't shout. You didn't explain. You didn't defend. You simply kept your composure. And that composure shook the other person. So never forget these words. A rude person's words do not diminish your worth, but your reaction reveals your depth. If you respond at their level, you lose your strength. But if you remain calm, you prove that control is yours, and that control alone can make even the harshest person apologize twice. Sometimes it's not the words that hurt. It's the meaning you give them. And the moment you change that meaning, no one can ever disturb your peace again. One of the key truths here is that rude people often set traps. Traps designed to push you into an emotional explosion. They want to break your calm, to drag you down to their level. Because in your calmness, they feel their own weakness. That's why every word, every look, every provocation is a test. The question is, how will you pass it? Will you react instantly out of anger? Or will you step back and observe like a Stoic? The Stoic approach teaches that you can't control every situation, but your reaction is always within your power. When someone treats you rudely, your first instinct is to respond. Your body tenses, your breathing quickens. It feels like a defense signal is triggered. But being able to pause in that very moment, that is where true strength begins. So when it happens, stop for a second. Take a deep breath. Don't analyze or replay what was said. Simply think, right now I am protecting my peace, and that is my victory. Because a rude person's goal lies in your reaction. When there is no reaction, their goal collapses. Sometimes silence is the most disarming response. No matter how hard they try to provoke you, you remain steady. You smile, nod, and quietly walk away. And they're left wondering, why didn't it work? Your silence confuses them. Your calm changes the rules of the game. Now you're in control, not them. They become frustrated by your composure because the reaction they crave never comes. They drown in their own emotions while you win with your peace. The Stoic said, "No one can insult you unless you allow it." This isn't just philosophy, it's a life strategy. Because every time you choose not to respond, you grow a little stronger. You place your reason above your emotions, and with every such choice, you develop a deep inner stillness. Less reaction, more control. The truth is, a rude person doesn't really want your response. They want your energy. They want to pull you into their chaos. But the moment you stay silent, you cut off their access to that energy. And in that moment, you become the master of silent power. Remember, sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Silence carries the voice of class, stability, and self-control. And that voice is louder than any shout. Let me tell you something. Rudeness is the clearest sign of poor manners, inner chaos, and lack of culture. But a refined person's greatest strength is their ability to remain true to their values. Because your level is revealed not in your words, but in your reactions. When a rude person disrespects you, it's as if they're challenging you to a fight. They want you to respond in the same tone, to shout, to defend yourself. But at that moment, think like a Stoic. If you cannot rise to my level, I will not descend to yours. A person's true worth is reflected in their reactions, not their words. When you stay calm, you don't just win against the other person, you win against yourself. Because sometimes the hardest battle isn't with the rude person in front of you. It's with the urge inside you to respond. But when you silence that urge, you've already achieved the greatest victory. The Stoics said, "Let no one's lack of manners stain your character." That means other people's behavior should never define who you are. If someone lacks class, that's their lifestyle, not yours. The moment you preserve your dignity, you've already risen above them. To maintain your level means to remain calm, because silence is not weakness, it's a form of intelligence. When low-level people talk, high-level people stay silent. A wise person knows not every argument deserves your voice. Some arguments don't prove you right. They just drag you into the mud. And from the outside, it becomes impossible to tell who's right and who's wrong. If you shout back, if you mirror their tone, no one can tell the difference anymore. But when you remain calm, your dignity defends you. Your silence turns into a quiet form of power. And that power disturbs the rude person deeply because they can't reach your level. Keeping your level sometimes means walking away. Sometimes it means smiling and saying, "This isn't worth my energy." Sometimes it means simply looking and not reacting. And every time you do this, you rise a little higher. Never forget, silent dignity is the most powerful response. Because anyone can win with words, but only silence preserves honor. When you stay calm, your values speak for you. When you protect your level, the world sees you differently. And most importantly, you begin to see yourself more clearly. Your level isn't your voice, it's your silence. And silent dignity will always be the symbol of the highest strength. For the Stoics, words were like the wind, they come and go, but actions define character. That's why they said, who you are is shown not by what you say, but by what you do. When you face a rude person, don't lower yourself to argue, because every word fuels the fire, silence puts it out. In moments of disrespect, your first impulse may be to respond, to defend, to insist that you're right. But the Stoic thinks differently. My values are not shown in noise, they're seen in my calm. This is a subtle but powerful mindset, because every rude behavior is a test of your composure. And if you can stay calm, you've already won. Imagine a co-worker criticizing your work in front of everyone. Your first instinct is to fire back, to defend yourself. But instead you smile and say, "Thank you for your feedback," and calmly continue your work. You protect your peace because you know your behavior stands far above theirs. Minutes later, everyone sees it. You've mastered your emotions, while they've lost to theirs. In that moment, your silence becomes your loudest answer. Silent dignity doesn't speak, it shows. Because sometimes the wisest answer is hidden in a look, a smile, or a quiet step away. That's not just victory over a rude person, it's mastery over yourself. And to the Stoics, true power means owning yourself completely. Let me share one more important truth. Silence is often misunderstood. People think staying quiet is weakness, but in reality, calmness is neither surrender nor fear. It's proof that you're in control. A Stoic understands that setting boundaries is the foundation of respect. And boundaries are not set through noise, but through clarity. A calm tone carries far more strength than a raised voice, because behind a calm voice stands inner stability. If someone insults you, raises their voice, or speaks disrespectfully, and you respond in the same tone, you've already stepped into their game. But if you take a deep breath and simply say, "I don't accept being spoken to this way," those words hit harder than any shout. No aggression, just clarity, self-respect, and dignity. Setting boundaries like this sends a powerful message. I am silent but not weak. I'm not reacting because I'm in control of myself. Imagine this. A family member or a close friend hurts you during an argument, raises their voice and tries to provoke you. In the past, you might have reacted the same way, but now you respond differently. You take a deep breath, keep your gaze steady, and simply say, "If we can't continue this conversation calmly, I'm going to leave." You don't slam the door. You don't raise your voice. You just walk away quietly. And that silence hits harder than any words could. Because your calm departure makes the other person reflect. They realize, sooner or later, how wrong their behavior was. Walking away does not mean you're afraid. On the contrary, it means you're loyal to your values. You understand that protecting your peace and your energy is far more important than trying to prove a point. It's clear that if someone doesn't want to understand you, no explanation will ever work. The Stoics said, "A wise man does not win every battle. Sometimes he chooses not to fight." This means that even when you're right, staying silent and walking away can be the wisest choice, because the level they're trying to pull you down to is no longer where you belong. As you rise, some people simply can't reach you anymore. That's not arrogance, it's the natural result of growth. Picture this. A heated argument breaks out. The other person insults you, speaks with aggression. Before, you would have fought back. Now, you just look at them, take a deep breath, and calmly say, "This conversation is no longer relevant to me." Then you walk away, No door slamming, no words, just quiet steps. That silence suffocates them, because your lack of reaction is the ultimate form of control. As I said, walking away is not defeat. It's respect for your own peace and energy, because silence often speaks louder than shouting ever could. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, because you know there is power in your silence. Every time you face someone who tests your patience, ask yourself, does staying here add value to my life, or does it drain my energy? If the answer is it drains me, walk away. That's not running away. That's leading your own life. Remember, Stoic strength is not always shown through the sword. Sometimes it's shown through the silence of your steps, and that silence often becomes the most devastating response. So here's the lesson. You don't need anger or sharp words to silence a rude person. True power lies in silence. The calmer and more dignified you remain, the stronger you become, because silence proves that control belongs to you. Remember, when someone tries to make you angry, the only thing they want is your reaction. But the moment you refuse to give it, they lose their power and drown in their own noise. You, on the other hand, stand calm, grounded, and composed. That's not weakness, and that's emotional mastery. Stoic philosophy teaches us that silence can sometimes cut deeper than words. As long as you stay true to your values, your silence will quiet their noise. And one day they'll realize you can't be broken, because your strength comes from within. Remember, silence is not surrender, it is control. Dignity is not weakness, it is superiority. And walking away is not fear, it is freedom. If these ideas resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, like and share this video. Your support helps others discover the quiet power of emotional control and inner peace. See you in the next video.